Okay, so today I'm going through my eyeshadow palettes. As you can see, there's a crap ton. In here there are also some blush palettes, highlight palettes, and concealer palettes. I'll touch on those when I get to them. But first of all, let's just do what's right here in front of me. I have my two Elora Mercy palettes. We have the Artist palette and we have the Extreme Neutrals, both of which I love, so I'm going to keep. The Naked palette, controversial decision. I am just going to get rid of this guy because I just don't reach for it. I may repurchase it in the future, but for the time being, it's going bye-bye. Same with these Stila eyeshadows, I just don't really use them. We have the Marrakesh palette. It's beautiful, but I don't use it. And I also have these two palettes that have eyeshadows in them that I don't use, so we're just gonna get rid of them. My Sleep palettes, I will be getting rid of some of them. I'll be keeping a New Day and an All Night Long because they're still in their boxes. I haven't used them. We have the Sunset palette, the Monaco palette, Storm palette, Vintage Romance, which I can never get into. It's a bit of a bitch. We have the Vintage Romance, which has barely been used, and the Garden of Eden, which again has barely been used, but I don't use them, so they can go. They're just taking up space. I'm gonna give these guys a bash, see what I think of them. If I don't like them, they're gonna go. Also gonna go is this Urban Decay Smoked palette because again, I just don't reach for it. I don't use it. I have colors like this and these in other palettes. I have them in my MAC palette. I have them in singles that I love better, so it's just gonna go. Next up I have my BH palettes. I have 3 of these baked eyeshadows. We have the Wild Heart one, which has a broken eyeshadow at the bottom. Wild and Free, and Wild Child. I mean, they're pretty colours and everything, but I've just never really reached for them. We have the Party Girl palette, which was one of the first palettes I got from BH Cosmetics, and it is a great starter palette, but I've since moved on to bigger and better things. We also have the Party Girl After Hours palette, which again, amazing additional palette. I've just moved on to other things. We have the Galaxy Chic palette, which I really enjoyed, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't use half the palette. I mean, none of these, and I barely used any of these light blues. I used the navy one over here quite a bit. It's a great palette. I would recommend it. The baked formula from BH Cosmetics is really nice. You just, if you don't use them, you don't use them, so there's no point in keeping hold of them, right? We also have the BH Day and Night palette, which is really nice. This actually came to me with a few of the shadows loose, so they do pop out from time to time. But again, I really liked this palette. I got great use out of it. I really liked all these neutrals down in this corner. I like the little pops of colour here and all the smoky bronziness, especially these three. These 3 were gorgeous. But again, I have moved on to bigger and better things. This Estee Lauder palette is going to go, but I know exactly who this is going to go to. Well, actually, there's 2 people it could go to. I haven't decided who yet, but this whole palette is going to go. It's like a portfolio of the best of Estee Lauder, and again, I don't really reach for it. I love Estee Lauder, but I have a lot of their eyeshadows already that I could be using. This tin from Benefit, it has blush, eyeshadows, and a Benetton. I don't really use it. It came with a sample of their Real and Professional, which I've used the mascara and I'm trying out the Professional, but the rest of the kit can go to someone else. I also have another little kit from Estee Lauder that I just don't really reach for. And it's got a little eyeliner, it's got a blush, a powder, eyeshadow. Just check that I haven't actually... No, I haven't even used this lipstick because I already had one of these in that shade. So the only thing that was in here was a mascara, which I pulled out and already used. So that can go to somebody else also. Next up, we have my e.l.f. shadows. I have this little quad in the shade Tantalizing Taupes. I like these eyeshadows, they're really nice. I just don't really reach for them. They need a bit of a clean up. But they're nice neutrals. They'll be perfect for someone who's just starting out with makeup. So I am going to pass that along. I do also have these little sets. These are all like the single shadows from e.l.f. So I have 4 little compacts full of those, and mostly they're untouched. They were a complete waste of money, to be perfectly honest, because I never did anything with them. So yes, they can go. These Max Factor shadows, I have 3 of the large size ones. Well, I have all 3 of the large size ones, and then I have the smaller size ones. I think I might be missing one, but I think they are all here. I have used a couple of them. They're nice enough. They're nothing really to write home about. These also are nice enough. They're nicer than the L'Oreal 10-pan palettes, but they do kind of blend into one another a little bit as well. So yeah, I will pass these on to someone else who will get much better use of them than I would. Next up, I have my Estee Lauder palettes. I'm keeping all of them. I'm planning on doing a Pan That Palette challenge with them next year. But we have a Rebel Metal, which is from the new range, and Fiery Saffron, which is also from the new range. I love both of these. They're great neutrals. If you only wanted to own a couple of eyeshadow palettes, I would totally recommend just getting these 2. You would be set. But I also have Surreal Skies, which is gorgeous. Bronze Dunes, again, gorgeous. I'm in love with this bronzy coppery shade so much. We have Angel Petal, which has a bit of a, they have quite unique glitter to them. Topaz Mosaic, which again, gorgeous, obsessed with this brown colour. Enchanted Berries. And then we have the palette that kicked the whole thing off for me, and this is Wild Violet. So beautiful. They don't make, well, about 3 of these were limited edition, and the other 3 were part of the permanent line, but they no longer make them anymore. So I'm going to be working on using these up next year, or using as much as I can of them next year. Oh, I found another Max Factor one. I knew I was missing one, so it can go to... next up, I have my Dior palettes, which I'm not getting rid of any of these guys because I just adore them so much. We have Pied de Poulet, or Pied de Poule, I can't remember which is the right way to say that. We have Cure Canage, which is gorgeous, so gorgeous. We have Amber Nuit, which again, so gorgeous. This is Earth Reflection, which is the first one I ever purchased. I don't know if they make this one anymore because they've redone the line a lot since I started buying Dior eyeshadows. We have a Rosy Tan, which again, I don't think they make anymore either, but I freaking adore it so much. We have Hypnotize, which is my newest addition. It is beautiful. As you can see, they have changed the packaging style yet again. If I compare them, they're slightly slimmer compacts as well. And lastly, we have the most gorgeous limited edition one I've ever purchased, and this is Fairy Gold. It's just for the gold there alone is just, it's stunning. So we'll be keeping hold of these guys for a while longer. I have my two Tartelette palettes. We have Tartelette and Tartelette in Bloom. I've only used these guys a couple of times each. I don't think I've actually... No, I haven't used the Tartelette one at all, but the Tartelette in Bloom one I have used quite a bit. You can possibly make out if I take it up to you. I've started wearing away the embossing and some of the shadows already. I do really enjoy them, so I am going to keep hold of these guys. Next up, I have my Too Faced palette. I have the Boudoir Eyes palette, which I'm actually going to get rid of. I really enjoyed having this palette, I just don't reach for it anymore, so I'm just going to pass it on to someone else who will enjoy it and get the use out of it that it deserves. We have the Natural at Night palette, which again, I really enjoy. I'm gonna be cheeky and keep hold of this one, because I remember I bought it for myself for my birthday one year. So I'm gonna keep it for a little bit and try and get some more use out of it before I pass it on. We have the Sweet Peach palette, which has become kind of a staple accidentally in my everyday makeup. I just, for a while, I couldn't think of what to use for eye makeup, and this just happened to be there, so I just happened to use it. So yeah, keeping that guy. We have the Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette, which I'm also keeping, and the Chocolate Bar palette, which I'm also keeping. I knew I was missing a Dior palette. This is Amber Design. This is the one that has the gel liner in it. This is a cult classic eye palette from Dior. I'm totally keeping hold of this guy. It disappeared for a few years and then they brought the whole range back, so it makes me super happy. One palette I'm definitely getting rid of is this smoky one from H&M. Beautiful shadows. I got so much use out of them. I just don't reach for them anymore, so they can go. The Bare Minerals shadows, this is in The Truth again. When I first got them, I used them quite a lot, and now I don't anymore, so I am going to pass that along. Same with this Estee Lauder Duo. This is in Praline, I believe. Yeah, no. This is in Vanilla Pots. I wanted Praline, but they only had this. Again, it's a very nice basic little set. You've got a nice base shade and a nice taupe shade. They're lovely. I just don't use them very often, so they can go to someone who will appreciate them. My YSL in Midnight Gardens, I believe this is called. I'm going to keep hold of this for a while longer, possibly. Yeah, definitely. Just for sentimental reasons, really. It's one of my favourite palettes. I think it was one of the first eyeshadow palettes I spent over £40 on, I think. Yeah, it took a lot to get me to buy this palette. Another YSL palette I have is this little duo, which I'm going to pass on because I just don't really reach for these colours. I like the colours, I just have them in other palettes that I like more. We have Heathered Plums from Elizabeth Arden, which I quite like, so I'm going to keep hold of for a little while longer. This is a Morning Java from Clinique, which is really pretty, so we're keeping hold of these guys. I'm just going to plug you in because you're starting to flash at me and say, I have a dead battery coming. Okay, so I had swapped sides of the bed so I could get to a socket, so that's why everything is a little bit different. I have this palette from La Femme. It's a blush palette. These are all gorgeous blush colours. These are the little slip that came with it. Tell me what all the colours are. They are beautiful. You've got all your nudes, neutrals, your pinks, your sculpting blushes, and your really bright pops of colour. Everything that you could potentially ever need in a blush palette is right here. And I'm going to keep hold of it because I freaking adore it. Speaking of basic colour palettes, this is a Ben Nye pressed colour palette, and this is the Essential Eyeshadow Palette. Can I say palette any more? Jeepers. But here they are. They are gorgeous. They are massive. I believe each one is about 2 grams, 2.5 grams, possibly. But yeah, so you have pretty much everything you could ever possibly need. I have a couple of littler, like quints and small high-end palettes. This MAC palette, this is the Interior Life palette, came out with the Daphne Guinness collection. I am going to get rid of because I just don't use these colours like at all. And it's quite an old palette, if I can, yeah, it came out in 2011. So I am going to pass that guy, well, get rid of that guy anyway. We have this one from Clarins. This is the 4-colour palette in the shade Nude. And every time I've tried to use this, I've not gotten on well with it. I don't know if it's just me or if it's the palette, but we need to just part ways. It's just not working. Just not working. I still have the little velvet pouch. So yeah. We have 2 NARS palettes. These are 6-pan palettes. I have one in Right Up to the Moon and the other one is in Fairy's Kiss. This is Right Up to the Moon and this is Fairy's Kiss. One is very warm, one is very cool. Neither of which I use very often. I've used Right Up to the Moon quite a lot. I like the colours in it. I'm tempted to keep it. No, I'll be good. I'll get rid of it. I'll get rid of both of them. Have this one from Guerlain. It's the Lou palette. It came out one of their Christmas collections a while ago. And it has 2 lip colours and 4 eyeshadow colours. I am going to get rid of this guy. It's really pretty, really pretty, but I just don't use it, so it can go. This Guerlain palette, however, I am going to keep hold of. It's one of their newer ones. This is in the shade Tonka Imperial, and it is beautiful, and I can't wait to use it more. And then we have my 2 Lancome palettes. We have Terre d'Ivoire, which was the first one I purchased, and then I got Brune au Natural, which is pretty much more of the same. I mean, if I put them side by side, they're almost the same, but they're different enough for me. So yeah, I'm gonna keep these guys because I do enjoy them. Next up we have the Makeup Revolution chocolate bar palettes, and I and ah a lot over whether to keep these, and I'm just gonna tilt you up a little bit there. Don't know whether to keep them. Don't know whether to get rid of them sometimes. I'm on the fence. We have I Heart Chocolate. And it's beautiful. It's stunning. I love it. We have the Death by Chocolate, which is a bit more cool toned, which again, I like it, but yeah. We have the Naked Chocolate, which is gorgeous. The Salt Caramel, which I really like, but it's very similar to Semi Sweet. The Golden Bar, which again is beautiful. I really love these colours. I haven't actually had a chance to play with this palette yet. It's so beautiful. And then we have the Peaches, Chocolate and Peaches palette, which I have dabbled in. Oh I'm going to keep them for a bit longer because I do actually use these, apart from obviously the ones I haven't used. I don't think I've used, have I used the salt caramel one? Yeah, I have used the salt caramel one. I just haven't used the golden bar one. The rest of them I do use quite frequently, especially the Death by the I Heart Chocolate palette. I use this quite a lot. In fact, it's like slightly broken. That's how much I've used this guy. So I will keep hold of these guys for a little bit longer. These guys, however, I think I'm gonna let go of a good chunk of these. Possibly all of them. The Iconic palettes I'm gonna let go of, because if I want them back I can always buy new ones. You know, they're like a couple of pounds each. They're like maybe a $5 each at max. So we have Iconic Elements, Iconic 1, Iconic 2, and Iconic 3. I think Iconic 3 was possibly my favourite one, but you know, we're trying to clear stuff out, so we're getting rid of those guys. I have this blush palette, which I haven't used, so it can go. I have the Ultra Shadows. I have Flawless, Beyond Flawless, and Flawless Matte. So this is the Flawless palette, which I've used a good deal. Like a lot. That needs to be heated up. We have the Beyond Flawless, which doesn't even look touched. Like, I think I've swatched a couple of the shades, and that's about it. And then we have the Flawless Mattes, which again, I don't think I've even... Yeah, I think I've like maybe used a couple of shades in the middle and swatched a few others, and that's about it. So yeah, they can go. They're just taking up space, they're not getting used, so they can go. We have the Ultra Contour palette, which again, I think maybe, yeah, I've used like once or twice, possibly. So they can go. The Iconic Pro palettes I have not used. I don't even think I've swatched these. So that's Iconic Pro. Yeah, that was Iconic Pro 1, and this is the Iconic Pro 2, which again, have not touched. Don't even think I've swatched. So, yeah, they can go. The Corrector palette I've used a couple of times, but I don't use it often enough to keep it, so it can go. The Concealer palette I do use. I use it more for like, I use that more for like highlighting, actual concealing. Some of these are good for color. That one in particular is good for color and correcting, so I'm going to keep hold of that guy. The Highlight and Radiance palettes. This is the Radiance palette, this is the Highlight palette, and we've already established I own a lot of freaking highlights, so I don't need to keep these guys, but they can go. I have this little guy from Elora Mercy. It's just 3 of their single eyeshadows put in a little mini palette. I'm going to keep this because I love these shades. So, yeah. We have my Viseart palette. This is the Neutral Matte. I freaking adore this palette. I take it with me for every makeup job. If you're just starting out in makeup and just starting out as an MUA and you have the money, I think this was £80. Worth it. Worth every freaking penny. When you think about it, once you've done like maybe 10 makeup jobs, you've paid it off. It's fine. It's worth investing in. my Smashbox palettes, I am getting rid of this guy. This is the Smashbox On The Rocks palette. It is beautiful, it is stunning. It came out as like part of a Christmas collection a year or two ago, maybe 3 years ago. I just don't really use it very often, and as you can see, I have a lot of eyeshadow going on already, so it can go. The full exposure palette I'm going to keep hold of because I do enjoy it. The double exposure also I will keep because I enjoy it. I particularly like the variants of the browns here, and I kind of want to try something with the purples and the taupes. So we're keeping this guy. We have the Kat Von D that came out really weird. I have the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, which I adore. If you don't have the money for the Viz Art palette, get the Shade and Light palette because it's basically the same thing. I really shouldn't keep both, but I'm gonna. I have this one from Bobbi Brown. It is the Old Hollywood palette. It's just a really gorgeous selection of shades. So I really like the sparkle shades that are in here. It's beautiful. The Zoya palette I'm going to let go of because I was very unimpressed by it, to be perfectly honest. This is the Nude Spectrum palette. I mean, it's not bad, it's not horrible, but for all what people hyped up Zoya palettes to be, this just did not meet expectations, so it's gonna go. And then I have the 2 Makeup Obsession palettes that I've made up that I'm gonna keep hold of. This one, I think it's the eyeshadow one. No, this is the eyeshadow one. Is it these eyeshadows? Yes. Can't even tell sometimes because blushes and my taste in blushes is crazy. I would probably pick, I do own a shimmery coppery blush, and then this is the sort of blush, highlight, contour, bronzer sort of things. So we have I have 2 contour powders, 3 contour powders, a couple of highlights, strobing balm, quite a few blushes. I think I have most of the blushes, but yeah, I haven't actually used these yet. I will soon though, but I'm going to keep hold of these palettes for a little while longer. Okay. Next up we have my MAC, Morphe and Z palettes. In this one we have gorgeous eyeshadows. These are, I take my MAC and my Viz Art palette with me on makeup jobs, so I have that one, and then we have this double-sided one where one has decided to pop out. These are ones that are coming to the end of their life, so I'm going to be focusing mostly on using these guys up over the next year. I think they only have maybe 6 months to a year left in them, and then I'll have to replace them, so I'll be aiming next year to use them up and replace them as I go. This one is empty, but we'll keep hold of it for just now because even just having the divider would be handy. We have 2 little palettes with blushes in them, with single pan blushes in them. I'm going to keep those because again, perfect for makeup jobs, particularly just generally these 2. We have what are you, Copper Tone and Swiss Chocolate. Swiss Chocolate is good for giving a bit of sculpt, and Copper Tone just tends to work on like everybody, to be perfectly honest. We have my Morphe palette, which has my Makeup Geek, Anastasia, and a couple of Morphe shadows going on in there. I have another Morphe palette, which again has some makeup. Are these Makeup Geek? No, these aren't Makeup Geek. Those are, that is Anastasia, NYX shadows, a couple of NYX shadows, Morphe shadows. This is a blush from Max Factor in Natural, which they don't make anymore, and a random Inglot shadow, which is surprisingly good for brows and transition. The Morphe shadows I've not gotten on great with. I do need to give them a more fair test because they're not consistent in texture. Some of them, like, you might be able to notice, like this gold one here is really smooth even though it's been used, whereas this one here kind of looks a bit chunky. So I need to give them a bit more of a test drive, see what I actually think of them. We've already covered that one. And then this last one has my Makeup Geek shadows in it. Makeup Forever shadows and the last of the Morphe ones. Yep, that's the last Morphe one. These three down here are Makeup Forever. These are Anastasia and Makeup Geek. Actually, I don't know if there's an Anastasia in here. I could be very, very, very wrong. No, I think these are actually all Makeup Geek ones. Yeah. And we have my Z palettes, which have my Inglot shadows in them. This is Natural Glow from Max Factor. This is Plum Perfection. Oh no, I didn't take out the, of course I didn't take the label out. Stupid me. But that is an Elizabeth Arden blush. We have my Inglot eyeshadows, and same in the other Z palette is more Inglot eyeshadows, which I need to get more use out of, most definitely. So out of the 119 palettes that I owned, and I didn't realize how many there was until I counted them just now, I'm getting rid of 60. I'm getting rid of over half of my eyeshadow palettes. That's freaking nuts. I say eyeshadow palettes, there's a couple of blush and highlight palettes mixed in here too, but seriously, that is freaking nuts. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little trip with me. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.